What's going on? It's Tori Kravitz, and welcome back to another new episode of She's with the Band. It's good to have you here. This podcast is super fun to do, but I feel as though if you weren't listening, this wouldn't be very fun because I would just be talking to myself. So you are very much part of this as well. So thanks for listening. And although I definitely won't be talking to myself today because we have Han from Hot Milk joining us very shortly. She's the vocalist of the duo alongside her partner in crime, Jim. They're from Manchester over in the UK. So for any of you who follow me on Instagram or know anything about me at this point, I spend about half of the year over in the UK at this point, and very specifically, really close to Manchester. So I do spend a good hunk of time in the city, which makes it really surprising that Han and I have not formally been acquainted until today, now that we're about to do this podcast together. So two of us run in very similar social circles. We've been at the same wedding before. We've been at some of the same gigs before. We're both just too busy being socialites, I guess, that we have not actually crossed paths yet. But if you haven't heard of Hot Milk as well, they are such a fun group. They remind me of, I don't know how long you all have been in the scene. If you remember, We Are the In Crowd, circa like 2011, 2012-ish, probably. Hot Milk gives me a lot of those vibes, but in a more modern way. Just that pop and rock sensibility put together with the male and female duo vocals. It's just a good vibe. I think they're really fun, but don't feel like you need to feel bad if you haven't heard of them till now. Although they've been a band since 2019, now is really the best time to be on board with them, because they have just released their first full-length album called A Call to the Void. It's out now, and the moment I gave it a listen was I was watching Kerrang, like the TV channel over in the UK where they play all the music videos. They play some new bands, some old bands, all that, and their music video for Party on My Deathbed, that's the one that was on the TV. And I remember I watched it. It completely caught my attention. It stood out from the bunch, and I just thought it was a really sick song. And several weeks later, it is still stuck in my head. It is playing in my brain as I'm recording this intro for you all. So yeah, give them a listen if you're into like the pop sensibility and the catchy melodies, but still with a good rock edge. They're really cool. And Han and I actually have some common ground that I was not expecting as I was getting into my research. I was very impressed because she has done more than music, I found out. And we'll get into that pretty early in the conversation. I won't leave you guys hanging, but it's definitely an interesting talking point. So I'm excited to get into that with Han, as well as talking about this new album. So without further ado, I think I've sufficiently hyped her up. Let's go ahead and bring on Han. And we are joined now by Han from Hot Milk. How's it going, dude? How are you?
I've got a swivelly chair, so I feel like I'm quite content because I've got a swivelly chair.
I actually have one too. So should
feel
we
very
just
important.
do some swiveling the entire podcast?
Yeah, we should. I feel like I should have a cat on my knee, like a white cat. You know what I mean? Like evil lair. Like...
So then, if something dramatic happens as well, you could just spin around. I respect.
Yeah,
it.
like I could do that for my whole life. I could do that in like the public. Just be like, you know, don't like the conversation. You can just be like, see.
Yeah. All right. Well, dude, so I need to tell you, I was doing a little bit of I was doing my research, typical, like watch a few interviews about Hot Milk. All right, let's find out about the new album. And I found some very interesting information and common ground between us. I have to address before we fully get into everything. I'm sorry in advance as well. I dove maybe a little too deep.
It's all right. Dig deep. I don't care.
But basically, you were a pit reporter for Warped Tour. What was it, in 2012? Weren't you, in the UK?
Yeah, I was. I know I came to the US as well. I did too, some of that in the US.
You're kidding.
This was like before Instagram existed, really, though. This was like a long time ago. I mean, you know, a lot changes in 10 years. Hello, this is Jim. He's in the band too.
Hello.
He's just come to He's talking about my pit days.
Oh, no way.
I know, yeah. Dig deep.
Well, I was also a pit reporter for 2 years in the US, so that's why I was like, okay, we're starting on a strong foot.
Okay, we
found out about you.
I wonder if we have a similar experience. But no, it was very formative, and obviously like you like get shoved in the deep end. And I was mainly doing like YouTube stuff because I was a YouTuber when I was younger. Like I did vlogs and stuff, and then they kind of just plucked me out of that and went, hey, you do this now. And it was like before it was even a thing, like it wasn't really like the internet and content and social media, they didn't really have a grasp on what it was or what was needed for. So they just got me to do it. And I was just like, like I had no idea what I was doing, and just like just wung it. Like you're just winging it when you're out there, aren't you? But that tour is like a baptism of fire for anyone, band, artist, whatever. But me at like, I think I was like 18. I don't think I could even drink legally. But I was like running away from cops, underage drinking, and watching people shag at night down the side of the tour buses and being like, ooh, it was just an absolute baptism of fire. It's mental. And that was like my start in music, basically. And I was very lucky. It was really random because where I'm from in Preston, no one went and did that. It was crazy.
Yeah, that's so nuts as well, because I was also like 18 or 19 the first time I did a Warped Tour, and you're so right. Like I think I grew up more in those 2 months that I did that tour than I had the rest of my 18 years leading to that point. It is pretty insane. So, I mean, even thinking of like the scene back then, did that inspire you as you were getting into Hot Milk? Because I hear so much of like, I said it in the intro, you'll hear it when this comes out, but like, I hear like We Are the In Crowd and stuff like that a little bit when I hear Hot Milk. I don't know if that's weird.
It's interesting. That's interesting because We Are the In Crowd have never been an inspiration to me at all. No offense to them, but they were never a band that I listened to and still have never listened to.
So what were you listening to?
I was more of a Green Day person, and I went backwards to like Operation Ivy, The Replacements, and then kind of like loved the Prodigy and like Pendulum and like the electronic side. I mean, when I was younger, I loved bands like Sum 41, and I even loved things like, I loved the Runaways, I loved, Bikini Kill, and that's where kind of for me like women came into it, and like where I thought, oh, hang on, she's got a vagina, I can do that as well. But the thing is, I noticed the difference between me and a lot of my friends is that I never wanted to shag the guys in the band. I always just wanted to be them. So I always felt like, oh, maybe something wrong with me. Turns out it's because I'm gay. But like, it's also another thing of like, I always just wanted to be on the stage. I never really wanted to be there for any other reason than the fact that I was an artist. And on Warped Tour, I was insanely jealous of everyone that got to play. Insanely jealous. And that just made me go, I need to do this, and I'm going to be good at that, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it well. So
did you kind of utilize that Warped Tour experience to start taking notes from some of the bands, or kind of like learning and soaking it all in that helped maybe prepare you for the start of this band?
100%. I feel like I did a lot of research very practically about how to be in a band and how not to be in a band. Like this was an era, like when I first started out when I was like 18, where there wasn't such thing as like bands getting cancelled and stuff. And the way that some of them would act is insane. Like I have seen some fucking shit. Do you know what I mean? Like, and even then I was like, this was weird. Like that where I'm from, people didn't act like that. And there was just the way women were treated in general. I really had a bad time digesting in a good way, like being so young and like being spoken to or like in a certain way by older men on that tour. I won't name names, but maybe I should fucking name names. But it's like that, well, that fucking that Kenny guy, that stage manager, do you remember him?
Did the same thing to me, man. But that's a story for another day, isn't it?
Exactly. And that is what inspired me to be like, you know what, fuck these people. I'm gonna get to a point where they can't touch me. I'm just going to have enough power and enough kind of like respect that you wouldn't dare. And also change things for the women that came after me, because no one was looking out for me, unfortunately, on that tour. You kind of are on your own unless someone sees it. And a lot of the stuff, the way that you're spoken to is very passive. And it just put a rocket on my ass and was like, I don't ever want to be treated like that again.
Yeah, man, there's so much to unpack in what you've just said. And first of all, I commend you for even going into that experience and coming out of it with those takeaways, because you could have left just being so hateful and so bitter, but you were like, no, we're going to learn and change some things here.
And it took a while. Like I bided my time,
Yeah, no, fully, man. And I don't know if you felt this way, but when I was younger, especially with men kind of looking at you or treating you that way, I felt like I needed to have this like real tough exterior. Like I felt like I needed to look so hard, and underneath I was obviously so nice and quite naive. But I look at you as well and I see like just so unapologetic, so just fully authentic. And was that something that maybe built for you over time, of like the way you are and the way you carry yourself in the industry? Because I admire that a lot.
I think I've always had a deep understanding of who I am. Like, I'm from a place where it's very brash. Like, from people from Preston are very, very loud and very unapologetic. My sister's the same way, so I would even say it's how we've been brought up. But I think the experiences that I've had, not only on like Warped Tour, but when I went into promoting in Manchester and I just put on gigs, and the way I was spoken to there by men, and you know, sometimes by women too. It's just people that are insecure in general. The way I've come to conclude it all is just people that take the power too far and it goes to their head, right? And ultimately, you can either, you know, sink into the background and let them win, or you kill them with kindness and you just come at them with kind of a lot of like ferocious kindness, basically. Like, violence is kindness, in my opinion. And it just shakes them off a bit. They don't really know how to take you. But I think especially if you're backed up with knowing what you're talking about, and the fact that you know, you're respected for your brain first and foremost, it's like these days, I just demand the respect. There is no other thing that like, if you're going to disrespect me, then I'm going to say, oh, that's not very nice, is it? Why are you talking to me like that? You know, it's just these days, it's like I'm been in this for so long now, I can't be asked. I can't.
Yeah. So do you, like, I know when I was younger, I didn't really know how to respond at first, and I would just be kind of like, ooh, I don't like that. Exactly. You know, it's like kind of an awkward situation at first. So I guess, what advice do you have for anybody who's coming into it now to handle it so that they get the same respect that they deserve, you know?
I think real recognizes real, right? If you're on a tour, for example, you know a lot of people, I think you can always find the good people. And I think finding like strength in that, and if you do come across a bit of an arsehole, then you can either just laugh them off, or like just joke with them. I'm just like, oh, got off on the wrong side of bed, did you? You need to go back to bed, mate. You know what I mean? Like, just kind of poke fun at them and make them feel like the way that they've treated you, or the way that they're talking to you, is just like not on, but in a way that's kind of like takes it away from being so direct, makes it, to be honest, I'm a bit of a like class clown, so I always try and make everything a funny time. But that's the thing, what we do for a living, it's saving lives if you're an artist, but the touring side, none of you are there like in any kind of way of massive importance. You're only there really to do a job and go home, and everyone needs to stop taking it so seriously, to be honest. Like, it doesn't really matter, does it?
You know, I always say that as well, because outside of the podcast, I do PR, and sometimes I'll say like, oh, if it's an emergency, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, wait a minute, there are no emergencies. Like, in the grand scheme of what we're doing, like, of course, music's important. We all need music, but it's like,
yeah,
there's no ambulance arriving because I didn't respond to your email or
yeah,
like,
exactly.
You know, or the set times pushed a little late or something.
Just easy breezy, innit? Just be easy breezy with it. It's supposed to be fun. Like, it's supposed to be art, and it's supposed to be, you know, expressive. And I think what we kind of preach in our band is, you know, it's a place to let go. It's a place to, you know, to find kind of friends and be at ease with each other. And if I ever found out that anyone in my touring team was treating people, you know, in the way that I might have been treated in the past, then I'd sack me immediately, to be honest, because that's not the kind of ship I would like to sail, to be honest.
And that's actually such a great point too, is in way of like changing the scene for the better, so that us ladies can feel more welcome, is setting the example of how your crew treats people. And if every band kind of set that precedent, what a huge difference that would make too, isn't it? So, I mean, I already loved y'all. I already thought you were great. So thank you for making it even better.
We try our best. We're not perfect by any means. I do have my days where I'm dead moody, I'm not gonna lie. Like, but you know, ultimately I would only ever be moody with like Jim, or like people that I can get away with it with. You know what I mean? I would never take it out on a stranger. Never ever do that, because that's just fucking nuts. You know, or someone you just met, that's crazy.
I mean, I feel like you're a little justified to be moody though, considering the album has just come out. You're on the headlining tour as we speak, yeah?
Oh, this is like an acoustic kind of album celebration tour. We wanted to hit like as many places as possible immediately after the album came out, and meet as many people as possible. We've met like 2,500 people over the last week, and I just love like talking to people and, you know, hearing what the album feels like to them, what their favorite tunes are, and just really connecting with our fans is really important to me. And it's my favorite part about being in Hot Milk.
Yeah. So what has been the consensus then? Has there been like a standout track for the fans so far? Is everybody as hyped as you expected them to be? Like, this was such a long time coming, that how has it been getting to, because I know you've talked about how this was like such a labor of love for you and something so personal, and like now it's almost not yours anymore, right? Like now it's theirs to decipher.
It's so weird. Yeah, it's so weird, like when you have these little babies that you create, and it's literally like your words and your music, and you make it in your little room, and then suddenly it's like you put it out into the world for everyone to hate and love and decipher and pull apart. And it's such an odd thing. I don't think there's anything else in the world other than maybe a film director kind of feels like that, maybe. But honestly, like, it's been so nice to hear that there's not one song that everyone has said. Like, everyone's got a different favorite. I think one thing I was really wanted to make sure was that people felt like what we were trying to get across, and like I feel very seen. I've never felt like so understood before. And the fact that our biggest song now at the moment is Breathing Underwater, which has been out like 2 weeks, you know,
Beautiful
it's outstreamed every other song we've ever. Well, thank you very much. But that's a song that I never imagined that people would connect with, because it wasn't really for anyone else. It was because I wrote it because I genuinely didn't know what else to do. I genuinely didn't know how else to deal with what I was going through, and I just did it, and it went, and I was like, I don't care if it goes in the album, whatever, I just did it for me. And then that's the one that people are connecting with. I think is shows that people want honesty. People, you know, you can feel there's a lot of fakeness in the world at the moment, especially in rock music. Everyone's trying to have a fucking rock moment, you know what I mean? And it just shows to me that there is justice for a real song, and it gives me optimism for the future in that sense. And I just think that, like, yeah, there is justice for a real rock band still.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally what you said earlier. Real recognizes real, isn't it?
Yeah, so. Man. I mean, it's a good thing. It makes you feel like, you know, what we're doing isn't just, you know, going out to an empty world or a void, so to speak. It does feel like, you know, someone's listening and people are understanding, which is important. The fact people understand is honestly a very big privilege of being able to create.
Yeah, and I mean, that song, it felt very vulnerable and so beautiful and so real. Like, I definitely, that was a standout track for me as well. And what I thought was cool as well is that the track list has such a balance. There's like moments where it's really fun, like you have the Alice Cooper song that's a little more silly, and then you have moments like that just kind of level it out. So I mean, it feels like a real representation of Hot Milk and what you've been building towards for the last few years, isn't it?
Sure. I mean, I would say we're very dramatic people. Like, you know, I can be at rock bottom, cry my eyes out, and then Jim will just do like a funny dance, and that's kind of like, oh, it's like kind of comedy and tragedy at the same time. Like, it's like when you lose people, you go through grief or whatever. Like, you always have a wake, and for us, the wakes have always been a party, and that's why, you know, it always comes from that feeling of like, you might be at rock bottom, you might have lost so much, you might feel horrendous, but the only thing that's going to keep you going is if you have some kind of like laughter. And like, that's the thing, everything in life ends up being equilibrium, and we have to have both sides, and we have to have hope. So I'm not saying the next one will have as much hope as this one, because it depends how I'm going to feel, but I think this one we really wanted to balance it out. Yeah.
And this is how I know you have such a good work ethic that has gotten you to where you are now, because you're already thinking about the next one. It just came out.
Absolutely. The day it came out, I started writing it before this one even came out. So yeah, I mean, always, only because I like to create anyway, so it'd be weird if I didn't start. I'm always creating, always writing. So yeah, the next one will arrive at some point.
Well, I know you also did the artwork for this, speaking of creative. So you had a real hand in more than just the music. The artwork was really, really stellar too.
So, oh mate, we do everything, man. We honestly, like, so when it came to the album cover, like, our label were like, don't worry, like, we have this idea, we think you're gonna love it. And I was like, oh, I don't think I'm like, personally, I don't like the fact that you've just made up an idea without even asking, which was pretty shitty, to be honest. So I wasn't going to like it on principle anyway. So they can try and give me what they want, but I'm not going to like it because it wasn't me. So they delivered it. It was a cool idea, but I was just like, nah. And they're like, well, you've got till Monday. And they kind of thought she's not going to come up with anything over the weekend. And I'm like, fucking, yes, I fucking will. I'll see what I'll put, you know. So we're in Santa Ana in a house. We were like just going out to South America to like play Lollapaloozas and stuff, and we had like a weekend in this house practicing, and I ended up like I saw this guy on my socials I'd met on a night out in Manchester, and I loved his artwork, and I messaged him being like, have an idea, if I can get some ideas to you and some photos to you and like a rough sketch by tonight, can we create something together by Monday morning? And he was like, yes, let's fucking do it, get it done. So I was in the garage with no top on, with Tom, our bassist, taking photos of me like at midnight, like, and I was just like looking at him, no, do it again, don't like that one. did the same with Jim, and like was editing it on Photoshop and had them all sent off to him by like 1 a.m. And yeah, he managed to get it back to me by the Sunday. So it was just like I delivered it to the desk on Monday morning, went, here's your fucking cover.
Must have been just like the biggest victory, like the biggest FU of like you're in control of the band and in control of like that aspect of it too. That's freaking awesome. Awesome to hear.
I think we've got, it's our art and it needs to have something that we represented us both on it. And I felt like that was it was very serendipitous that everything fell into place. And I loved the fact that I always run into the guy on a night out in Manchester still. And we ran into him the night the album came out in a bar. And we were like,
no way.
We were like, yeah. And he was like, get the shots in. And it was like, it was sick.
That's how you know when things are just meant to be, when it all just serendipitously falls into place exactly how it's supposed to. Man. I'm a full believer of that. And I did want to talk about the album title as well, Call to the Void, because I read that it's a nod to the French phrase about your brain's trick of spotting opportunities to die. And I need you to know, like, as dark as that is, I felt very seen that I'm not the only one who maybe thinks about opening like the emergency door in the airplane or something, just ridiculous things like
Intrusive thoughts.
Intrusive thoughts. Yeah.
Intrusive thoughts. Yeah. I mean, lapel de vide is the French term. And I don't know, I've always been drawn to this notion. I've always been drawn to the darkness, unfortunately. I'm a very like dark person. Like my manager whose house I'm at, she always says like, calls me Wednesday Addams, or they call me June Gloom, which is another one of our songs, because they're always like, oh, Hannah's here to like, rain on the parade again, being like, they're like, oh, you're going to do this 2,500 cap room in November. I'm like, doesn't mean we'll fill it. It's always, I'm a bit shade on the shady side of life sometimes. But yeah, I was drawn to this phrase and just it kind of just stuck. I mean, the other title we had was Kaleidoscope of the Abyss, which was a bit too much of a mouthful. So we went with the Call to the Void. It just felt right.
Yeah. Was there anything like thematically in the lyrics or in the album itself that kind of brought together that concept and the songs, or is it just kind of felt right for the vibe?
Yeah. No, it was like there was a lot of kind of like the idea of like being on a precipice and being pulled in different directions. I think that the heart of most of our songs is a little bit of nihilism and a little bit of kind of balance and trying to kind of tear yourself away from one side to the other and trying to understand where you sit in life. I think that's a big thing throughout all of Hot Milk, because that's what we're all dealing with, and me especially. I very much struggle with like my own happiness and what I'm supposed to be or who I'm supposed to be and all of that. So I think the idea of being on this precipice into a void, into a black hole, and staring into a future that you don't know anything about, I think that's kind of was like an overarching narrative arc, I think, throughout this whole record. And that's why that title just kind of stuck and made more sense as we made our way through writing the record.
Yeah, damn. And speaking of also intrusive thoughts, there was something I noticed in quite a few of your interviews that I don't know, I just caught it and felt it was something that was really relatable, because you see these people who are in bands who are in these like higher positions that you're like, oh man, they're crushing it. They must just be on top of the world and think the most of themselves. But then I heard you saying that sometimes you have intrusive thoughts about like kind of imposter syndrome. They sometimes still feel like you're not a real artist, or you're just playing with your friends, playing with your mates on stage. And like from the outside, it seems so different. So I'm just like, what do you mean you're on tour with like Foo Fighters and shit? Like, what's going on? So I would love
to just messing about. We're still just messing about.
So you still feel that way then, like that, even though you're playing in these kind of high stakes scenarios, that you're just trying to have fun with it and keep it light.
I think the way I view life is that this whole world that we get to live right now is a playground, right? We're not here forever. So therefore, everything we do is kind of just messing about, because, once you've kind of had that reality removed from you that this is only temporary, then the only reaction to that is to think that it's all just fun and games, surely, right?
Yeah.
But don't get me wrong, like, we take our craft very seriously. But I think at the end of the day, it's all got so ridiculous now that the only way to deal with it is to be like, well, it's only a laugh, innit? And that's what we always say. Every time we get nervous, we're all just like, it's just a laugh, innit? It'll be right. And then we'll just have a drink after, it'll be fine. We're just a bit more like nonchalant about it, because I think that's how you have the most fun from the situation. And that's what this is about. It's supposed to be enjoying yourself and expressing and, being able to connect to people. And like that is the paramount for me. And that is the wealth of this. And I'll never feel good enough. I'll never feel like I belong, because I'm here by pure luck, chance, you know, going back to the first time I got asked to go out on Warped Tour because I had some YouTube videos on the internet. Like, this whole thing has been a mind fuck that I'm not even sure that I'm not even in a coma. Do you know what I mean? So it's all been so ridiculous. The way that all band has happened, the songs that we've written, the fact I can even write songs is weird to me. That I just think it's got to be us messing about.
I think I need to adopt that mindset. I think it might cure my anxiety.
Yeah,
I think I need to just like, I mean, yeah, because at the end of the day, you're right. It's like, none of this is real. Like, is this all real? I don't know. Let's just have fun.
Doesn't matter. But that's where you do get confidence. That's why I can be quite seemingly overconfident, is because I just can't be asked anymore. I don't care. Like, it is just life, and all my intentions are good. I know that. My friends know that. And if you have a problem, then that's on you, man. Because I'm here for love. I'm here for a nice time. So that confidence, you might not like it, but at the end of the day, it's because I only want to bring the best out in you too. You know, and it's like, just let it drip away. We're all here for a nice time, aren't we?
Absolutely. I suppose anybody who maybe doesn't like that confidence just needs to work on their own a little bit and then come back to you.
Well, honestly, I do want to come back at any point. I'm very forgiving. I'm like, oh, come on, let's sit down. No, it's like, have a pint. Let's have a pint. Let's talk about what's going on with you. You know.
Oh, I love that.
Time. Help other people. It's one of my. I would love to be a foster mum one day. Like, that's one of my dreams. Be a foster mum.
I mean, you can really figure that out while you're on the road, right? Like, you know, do it all at once.
Okay. This might end in 5 years. I might be all right. I can go and do it then. Who knows?
No, I don't want to talk like that. I want to just continue on and prosper, you know?
We'll see what happens. You never know. You can't see the future. That's why you just got to enjoy what you're doing right now. And right now I'm sweating my ass off in 30 degrees in London.
Ooh, man, I was just over there like not that long ago and I was chilly. What has happened?
I know, man. It's global warming. It's good and it's bad. Like, I get a nice time, but in the sun, but it you know, death. So,
well, I do know where it is a little bit cooler, is in your home city of Manchester. Yeah, at least it's a little bit cooler up north, and cold, wet, gray. That's it, isn't it? But yeah, I mean, you're very loud and proud about being from Manchester as well, which I thought was cool because I spend a lot of time over there as well. We mentioned it when we spoke very briefly that we run in very similar social circles as well. The whole thing is quite funny.
Well, it's all very inbred, isn't it? All the moshers, they all know each other and they're all like friends and that. So it's dead weird, yeah.
It is. And the thing is too, like, Manchester, I feel like there's never been a time where I've been in that city without seeing at least one mosher. Like, that city's so cool for music, isn't it?
Full of them. I mean, look, like, there's a lot of time to sit inside listening to music and a lot of time to sit inside playing music, which is why, you know, great bands come out of Manchester, in my opinion, because what else do you do in January when it's raining? So, you know, that's
definitely not leaving your home, that's for sure. But yeah, so what I was reading in other entries as well was that the city kind of inspired you in a few ways. I know John Cooper Clarke was someone you mentioned as being a big inspiration lyric wise as well. So what do you think it is about being from Manchester that has helped you stand out as an artist from the rest right now?
Oh, I don't know.
If at all, I don't know.
To say that it's basically, for me, I'm proud to be from there because it is a working class city first and foremost. And, you know, my dad's a builder, my mum's a receptionist. You know, we're very normal people, and I think what Manchester gives you is you know, a bit of attitude about life, a bit of like something about you that makes you feel like you can achieve. And I think that they always bring you back down to earth, though. No matter where you go, I can always go back into the bar that I always go to. They're like, oh, where she is, get her down off your high horse, get down, you know what I mean? Like, there's always like a level of like realism, I think, when you live in Manchester and you're from there, and your mates are, you know, they're always there to make you feel like normal again, you know. Don't know, I just, there's something special about the streets. And I walk down, I live in the city centre and I walk around, you know, late at night, and I'm always the last one up. It's funny, I walk home like no one else is up, it's just me. So that makes me feel very close to, I feel like, the, you know, the living and breathing side of it. And I always feel like I have a very personal relationship with the city itself. Like, I talk to it sometimes like a little weirdo. And I don't know, I just think it's the only place that I've ever felt accepted in, and it made me who I am. So the best thing I can give back to it, because it gave me so much, is to, you know, put its name back out there in the world. Because obviously, you know, Oasis and Joy Division and all those, and the Smiths and whatever, did loads of things for Manchester way back when. But, you know, I'm here to give it a new lease of life. And yeah, we're not indie, but it doesn't mean we're not inspired by the same things that they were inspired by.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much history, like you said, of music in that city. I feel like whenever I'm there, it's palatable. Like I can just kind of feel it in some of the buildings and some of the stores, and just even the current fashion that's clearly inspired by the past as well. And so even when you come home from like playing Fallon or something, do you walk into your pub and they're just like, ah, yeah, whatever, we don't want to hear about it. Just
Pretty
come back,
much.
hang out.
Yeah. Pretty much. They're like, oh, so I did that. I'm like, all right. They're like, yeah, that'd be £10. I was like, all right. So.
Yep. No free drinks for you.
No, I mean, listen, I do get free drinks now because I always end up back in my fucking house drinking the rest of my drink. So we've got a deal now. It's like if you're coming back to my house after, I get free drinks now because actually I've just had to buy drinks for you lot on the way home several nights this week. So no, we got a good deal going on me in the bars now. They help me, I help them. You know how it goes. But no, man, it's just I wouldn't want it any other way. Won't want it any other way.
For sure. And obviously we saw Jim a little earlier in this episode, and I just get a vibe about you two that perhaps sometimes you find yourself in some fun or some trouble or just crazy mishaps on the road. Is this a good read, or do I have it all off?
I mean, me and James we're tied at the hip, really. Like we were together for 5 years. You know what I mean? He was my best friend before then as well. So, we've got a long history, over a decade of me and him before Hot Milk even existed. So, it's so weird being like a band with your best friend and your brother. Basically, me and him fight constantly. Like I'm talking, we fucking punch each other, like play fighting. So we're always getting up when we're both in one of those moods. It's like, so like, but the thing is, if Tom and James are both drinking in the band, I have to stop because otherwise I don't know how we get home. Like there's always got to be one person that's sober because otherwise it's happened once and so much trouble. We've been kicked out of we got kicked out of a Foo Fighters show once, and we got kicked out of Lollapalooza when we played it. Just like the drunkest people in there, which isn't a good thing always, but we're never violent or anything like that. We're just dickheads.
Just having a laugh.
Yeah. But the Americans don't like it very much, no offense, but you can't get UK drunk in America.
No, none taken. I was on a train, actually. It was just the last time I was there, and I was going from Manchester over to Blackpool, and it was like 8 a.m, and people are throwing back beers already on the train. I'm just like, It's so early. What is going on? The culture is definitely different.
Got a day off. If you go in the football, then it's fine. It's what it is. And it's probably very unhealthy, and we're probably a nation of alcoholics. But honestly, like, I think that's why we're very down to earth, and we're kind of, we can talk to strangers quite easily, and we are quite open. And I think that drinking culture does come hand in hand with that. And I don't necessarily think it's the healthiest of things, but at the same time, what it gives us is a little bit more of like a friendlier edge, I would say. Don't get me wrong, I've had a great time in America, been welcomed by many people, but I always feel like there's always a bit of a disconnect between, especially because I like to talk to strangers, which my friends really find annoying because I'm like, hello, mate. And they're like, Hannah, just shut up for a second. Just shut up for a second. But no, man, I mean, we love touring America. It's always something weird always happens,
We are a weird country, I will say. But you know what? Even though like maybe the drinking culture is a little rowdier over there, I feel like the pubs are exponentially chiller than our like sports bars or really rowdy kind of places where you go to drink here. I really enjoy a good pub. It is just, it hits different.
There's a pub in the day and a pub in the night are two different beasts, but you guys don't really have, pub culture. And I think a pub really for pubs for us are community centres, like
exactly.
You go down the pub because that's the way you see your mates, and it's where I've got hair in my mouth, sorry. It's where like people meet, and like deals are made, and like stories are made, and people fall out, and it's just it's your hub, isn't it? And it's our church, really, with the decline of religion. I feel like the pub has become our church.
I'm with it. I am with it. And, we always wrap up every episode of She's with the Band with a few of our most jaw-dropping questions. So I have 4 questions for you of either jaw-dropping moments in your career or some picks for you. So are you ready?
Okay, go for it. Yeah, let's have it.
Our first one here is, what is the most jaw-dropping experience you've ever had at a show? I feel like we kind of segued into that nicely, talking about a few of those.
Yeah, I feel like, the first time we ever did like one of those Foo Fighters shows, we did one with them like in the first, when we'd been in a band for like a year and a half, because basically Dave heard our music and was like, I want to take you on tour. But I feel like yeah, the first time I walked out onto a stage that big, I was like, what do I do? How do I use this space? Like now it's like second nature, but like that first time my jaw was on the floor because I was like,
What do
literally
you do?
excitedness and I was in fear. I was scared.
So what is the difference then? So what is your protocol for like such a big stage? Because is it just like a lot of cardio? What happens?
It's Freddie Mercury mode. Freddie Mercury mode comes on. I go, Freddie, give me the power, Freddie. And I go like that, and then I'm just fucking on it. Show off mode. You know what I mean? Shake them hips. Make sure. I always say it like whack-a-mole. So if the left-hand side are having a good time, I have to go and make them have a good time. But then if the left-hand side have a good time, the right side might not be doing it as much. So I have to go and shout at them. So it's like whack-a-mole in. And if the back aren't moving, I have to shout at the back. You know, there's a lot of whack-a-mole, and I just see it as a game in my head. Like I said, everything's a game in it.
Yeah, that's actually, I've never heard anyone say that, but that is a really cool way to look at it. It's like, yep, just back and forth. When one's down, get the other.
Exactly. And while still trying to sing and play guitar, you know.
I can't even fathom. I feel like that's a skill in itself, is just being able to sing and play guitar. Throw in any other elements and I would just be head spinning. So nothing
probably
but respect
my split
for
personality. My split personality is probably good. She's got one side and she's got the other, you know, two brains working together.
Absolutely. And the next one here we have is, what is the most jaw-dropping misstep early in your career and the lesson that you learned from it? Like to keep it a little educational here, you know.
Don't tweet when you're drunk. That drunk. See, what I do now is like, if I've got something to say when I'm on Twitter or whatever, I save it as a draft. But early on, I used to be at like, you know, get shit faced and just be like, write something really weird that people will be like, is she okay? You know what I mean? So now I try to limit myself a little bit now by like not tweeting about dolphins and the fact that they're probably aliens at like 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm trying to like be less weird. So yeah, I'm trying to control how I am on the internet a little bit more, because I was definitely like just putting every thought I ever had being like, you know, like what happens if I put laser beams on my shoes? You know, I don't know. Just trying to become less weird.
I do feel like out of all the things you could tweet while drunk, alien dolphins is probably on the low spectrum of damaging things you could say, though. That's fairly harmless.
True. It is, but it's just like, it makes me look unhinged, I guess. And I'm just trying to look less unhinged and keep my unhingedness very private. But yeah, man, I always get the fear the next day as well. And I can't deal with that. Like I get quite a lot of anxiety after I've been on a night out and stuff. So I'm trying to limit the fear of the next day. That's what I'm trying to do, because I'm a better person for it.
I respect that as well. Absolutely. And we have the most jaw-dropping female artist that you would love to work with. Dream collabs.
God, who would I love to work with? Love to work with Dolly Parton.
Let's go.
I feel like that'd be really funny, because I've heard that she's got loads of tattoos, but she doesn't tell anyone. So I will be like, come on, get your top off, Dolly. Show me what you've got going on. I'd love to work with Miley Cyrus, you know. I'd actually love to work with Miley Cyrus, because I feel like I love her voice now. I love all the cigarettes she smoked and what she's done to it.
It's done some good for her. She's got that raspy edge now, doesn't she?
I love it. I love her voice now. I'm like, maybe I can get back on the cigs. But yeah, man, just I don't know, someone that like has got good crack in the studio and that will inspire me in different ways. I don't always just think of the song. I think about the you know, the life lessons you can get from collaborations, and I feel like them two would be good to chat to.
Yeah. Have there been any collaborations or even just run-ins with other artists in the past that have taught you some of those lessons that you still carry with you now?
You know what? I met Pharrell once. I was really, all these stories of me being drunk, but I was very drunk. And my manager should not have let this happen. He went, do you want to meet Pharrell? And I was like, well, I have to say yes, but I'm not exactly like compos mentis. Anyway, I just met Pharrell and I kept offering him Jaffa cakes over and over again because I know what to say to him. And he pulled me aside and be like, you know, you can just relax. You're meant to be here. You know, you're worthy of being here. Because obviously I was very like, oh, I'm just a girl from Preston that, you know, my dad's a builder and I'm meeting Pharrell. And he has the smoothest face. But yeah, I just think that, like, you know, the lesson that your heroes are real people, and actually some of them end up letting you down sometimes. I've had that a few times. So I think they say don't meet your heroes, but I feel like just meet them and see what happens.
If anything, you learn that your heroes are just people too. That's the worst case scenario.
People let you down all through your life. You get let down constantly through your life. You get, people don't always let you down, but that is always going to happen, unfortunately, because, people are innately selfish. It's not always their fault.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm going to divert from our jaw dropping real quick because it just like popped into my head. But just thinking about like, now that you kind of feel like you belong here, you feel like you've made your way. Like, I mean, Pharrell even saying to you, like, you belong here, you should be here. Now, it had been several years before releasing this album. What was the moment where you felt like, okay, we're ready to do this, we're in the right space for it?
For the album, I think, well, we ended up doing a trilogy of EPs, which was always the plan because we produce everything ourselves, so we wanted to get to a good standard. And I think once we felt like we'd mastered kind of like, how to do things in a way of like, the kind of the same quality level as a lot of our peers, I think that's when we were like, okay, like we can do something now that can stand on its own and be its own thing. And I don't know, I think we were just getting sick of doing EPs. It was just time for the album. It was time to do a piece of art that was long enough and like felt like it was cohesive. And I think we just knew. I'm a very much a gut feeling person. I go on gut feeling so much in my life, on people, on things like decisions, and I just kind of follow the universe and my gut feeling. It's got me this far, so I should keep trusting it.
Fully. And yeah, it's so true with like EPs. I feel like you can only tell so much of a story and you're a little bit limited by duration. And like this album, even just looking at the track list and the way it flows, I'm like, I could tell all the love and intention that went into it. Like you were ready for it for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, and the last one we have here is the most jaw-dropping misconception about you that you wish people understood.
Oh, I don't know. What did people misconceive?
Oh boy.
What do they misconceive about us? You know what? I think a lot of bands get this at the minute. Any band ever is getting the whole industry plant thing. Have you noticed that every band's getting that? That pisses me right off because I've got no fucking money. And if I was industry plant, I'd have some fucking money. Do you know what I mean? Like, suck a dick. We do so much in this band. It is unbelievable. Right down from writing, producing our own music. Lots of bands don't, by the way. We're fucking doing all the, half directing a lot of these music videos, making our own art, our label's not allowed password to any of our social media, everything, James is in there designing the lighting package for our headline tour, time coding it all. And, every conceptual thing that's ever happened with this band has just been us. And that really pisses me off because it's like, well, what am I doing all this for if you just think someone else has? That pisses me off. Because, we live in this, just not one day I don't work on Hot Milk, and not one day I don't do something for this band, or I do it to increase the fun times and increase the amount of people that can relate to us, and that's what it's about, and that pisses me off, man.
Yeah, fully. I mean, you deserve the credit for the work that you're putting in, and the fact that you're so hands-on. Yeah. And I think there's really a misconception right now as well of like what an industry plant even is. Like just because you have people in the industry who work for you does not make you an industry plant. Like people don't understand what they're saying when they say that, I don't think.
Yeah, it's getting a record deal an industry plant, because in that case every artist is then like sorry for some tunes that people liked and wanted to back, like it just is what it is. We wrote some good tunes. Sorry. Like, where's yours?
Honestly, this might be one of the most important and necessary misconceptions that has been broken on this show. So thank you for addressing it, because my God, everybody stop calling your favorite bands, or not favorite bands, I don't care, an industry plant. Enough of that. Nope.
I wish I was. I tell you, I wish I was. Things might be a little bit easier.
I was gonna say you'd have a really easy time if you were. Would have been sick.
Exactly, would have been great. Yeah.
Well, on that note, Han, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you are in high demand at the moment with the album out. Everyone wants to talk to you. Everyone wants to hear about Hot Milk, and rightfully so. So congratulations on everything, and thanks for being here and all that.
Thank you. Appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, well, everyone who's listening as well, make sure you're tuning in. She's with the band here on KNOTFEST every other week. Tune in for new episodes, subscribe, all the stuff. Listen to A Call to the Void. It is on all streaming platforms and all that now. And yeah, she's nodding her head because it's true. You should listen to it. And we'll catch you next time. Bye, y'all.